Hello, this is Pastor Roland, checking in to see how you're doing. Some of you are not doing so well. You have issues. Let's talk about it. Our troubles begin when we're little kids, and um, we are traumatized somehow. In many ways, we're traumatized. And most of us never get over those childhood traumas. Okay? It doesn't take a lot. Bullying, a mom who hates her husband, overtly or perhaps covertly underneath, she resents her husband. On the surface, she puts on a show of service and being helpful and everything, but underneath, see, there's some kind of a hatred there for what he did, or maybe he didn't do anything, but it's a hatred that's passed down from generation to generation, from all the way from the Garden of Eden. See, women who are unloved and who resent and judge and hate their failing men, beginning with her father who wasn't there for her. So you see, there's the first trauma right there. Father wasn't there for her, and she hated him for it. Yeah, I'll use the word hate. Okay? Now, a lot of people, that's something that they never want to face. See? Because they just don't. So they cover it up. See, we do that all the time, don't we? We go out in the world and we resent someone. But then we go overboard and we're extra nice to cover up the resentment. See? Somebody asks us for a favor and we resent them for asking. So then we cover it up, and then we go overboard in being compliant and nice and helpful to make up for the guilt for resenting. See? So a lot of people spend their whole life being manipulated that way. People ask them for something, they resent being asked, and then in resentment, then they go overboard to be extra nice. So a lot of what people do that seems nice and helpful and also wonderful, it's all a compensation. It's a cover-up for hate underneath. Okay, so the child is born into a family. Now, obviously, if the father is abusive and cruel and vicious and violent and so on, then that's reason to hate. That's reason to judge. But a lot of times, dad is not so bad. Okay, he's just a regular guy, goes to work, comes home. Underneath, she resents him and judges him. Now, that could be that's a topic for a whole other series of videos and book. In fact, I've already written the books on the subject. You can get my book, The Myths and Mysteries of Marriage, or my other book, Putting the Forever Back in Love, and I go into the details of it. But what you have is a lady who comes from a home where her father failed her. He wasn't there for her. She went out in the world looking for love. Instead, she found abuse or use. Maybe not abuse necessarily, but use. See, men use women to support their ego. Now, if men would love women, see, really love women, then the woman wouldn't have reason to judge him, to resent him. But men use women to support their ego, to support their pride. See, they want the woman to lie to him, to tell him that his animal man is what man really is all about, which it's not. See, we fell into the natural, into the sensual, through a failure at the very beginning of the human race when Adam failed. See, he could have lived forever, perpetually renewed on a daily basis in God's light, in God's love. and he would live forever that way. But instead he failed. He cut himself off from God through doubt, through ambition, through listening to the serpent-coached tongue of his wife instead of listening to God. See, instead of doing what was right, he was ambitious. So he got cut off from the Father, and then he began to die. Now it took him, 900 some odd years to die. It only takes us, from the time we're born, maybe 70 years if we're lucky. That's all we got, see. But the point is that no longer being able to live forever, perpetually renewed, then a substitute, a form of regeneration or generation came into being, and that was procreation. So Adam became animal. He changed. He literally changed from being a spiritual being to becoming an animal, okay, which had to procreate to sustain the race. It's that simple. So that's the environment that we're born into. You're born into a home with a failing dad, the chip off the old block from Adam, and a mom who resents her husband for failing. Okay? And so there you are. So they got together, and then they spawned little failures. So you come into the world as an ego, a little ego, a cute little ego. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll grow up to be a big ego. Most people grow up to be big, nasty egos. Okay, pride is a compensation for what was. See, all these are all compensations. So there you have. You're born into a family into this family where there's intrigue. See, underneath and subcurrents of resentment and hostility and unfinished business and baggage from the past and all of that. Okay, which breaks out into arguments and a lot of times into divorce. Okay, so there you have that. So sooner or later, and then you go out into the world and into a world filled with people who come from similar families. Okay, and so a lot of people are angry. They're angry at their mom for being willful, angry at their mom for bossing them around or slapping them around or pressuring them or whatever, angry at dad for failing them. So they're angry. They go out in the world, they're angry, and then they take it out on others as bullies, or they're in rebellion. You see a lot of people in rebellion, driving down the freeway at 90, 100 miles an hour for no reason, taking drugs, stealing, putting graffiti on things, dropping out of school, and just naughty, rebellious, angry. See, angry. I remember when I was a kid. We would go to the, traditional church. We went to traditional church when I was a kid. See, I'm kind of a non-traditional pastor. I don't have a big church. See, this is what I do. Every Sunday morning, I have my radio program. So that's kind of like church for people who listen to it. It's good for them. Okay? I talk about important things. And I have my internet. I have this, and my YouTubes, and my books, and all these things to help people. See, so I'd like people to find their way, to find God directly. In other words, I help them to find God. Then once they found God, they don't need me anymore. See how nice that is? Okay. So a lot of kids are rebellious. Oh yes, I was saying that. That we had a pastor. See, very nice, kind of what you would think of as a pastor. He looked like a pastor, talked like a pastor. His wife was like a pastor's wife, and they adopted a couple of kids. But these kids that they adopted, when they adopted them, they were already they weren't babies anymore. They were already a little bit older. So they adopted them, but the kids came from a troubled home. But anyway, the son had some issues, and the adopted daughter, was totally rebellious. So it was quite a scandal. The pastor's daughter was extremely rebellious. Okay, so what was going on? Well, first of all, she was angry, okay, for all the people that had failed her. And secondly, she was rebelling against something. If there was nothing to rebel against, she wouldn't rebel. So undoubtedly there was some hypocrisy, or the pastor was nice but weak, or who knows? Okay, but she was rebelling against that. So a lot of people are angry and rebellious. So you're grown up. You come from an environment where there's a failing father. See, fathers should be like the Moses of the family, like David, like Jeremiah, Isaiah, Paul, Peter. See, a man of George Washington, a man of impeccable character, virtue, honor, full of grace and wisdom, okay, courage, kindness, understanding, forbearance, long-suffering, a pillar of virtue. That's what father is supposed to be, okay? But her father wasn't even close to that. At best, he was a nice people pleaser. See, made being popular and all that too important. At best, he was halfway decent. So in that sense, he was a failure, like all men have failed. All men have failed their wives, myself included. See, there was only one. Well, there was one man who didn't fail, and that was Christ. See, and that's why a lot of the ladies, remember, when you read the story, you'll see a lot of ladies loved Jesus. They loved him. Why? Because he was the first man that had true love. Didn't use them. See? So kids are angry at their dad, even if he's a halfway decent dad. See, a lot of dads scratch their head. They wonder what happened. Went to work every day, came home, was a good provider, didn't drink, smoke, or gamble, okay? Had a good job. We took vacation every summer. Kids went to good schools, and we had a nice house. And my kids, there's some kind of a problem with communication. They wonder. It's because father needs to have something extra. Okay, something extra. A connection with his Creator, by which love flows through him from the Creator. That's what he needs. A very special agape kind of a love, a corrective love. See, so he can correct ego naughtiness with with a twinkle in his eye. In other words, not angry. That's another See, when a man becomes angry, anger is a compensation. It's a failing. See, so with great wisdom and gentleness and strength, he corrects ego naughtinesses. Now, egos are naughty by nature, whether it's kids, whether it's his wife, whether it's other people. See, and thereby, as he corrects others, he corrects himself too. See, a man shouldn't have any vices, and what weaknesses he has, he should be outgrowing them, and he becomes more fatherly to his wife. See, instead of wanting her naughtiness, being excited by her naughtiness. See, cultivating her naughtiness, or resenting her. See, for her naughtiness. He should stand as a contrast to, or emotionality. He should stand as a contrast to emotionality, to naughtiness, and to ego excesses. Okay? He stands as a contrast and gently corrects. See? Now, that's what egos need. That's what they really need, deep down inside. It just like, for example, we're all familiar with the spoiled kid. We've heard stories, or we've known spoiled kids. Spoiled kids acting out. See, and a lot of times people have been appeasing them, and catering to them, and giving in. See, But that's not what the child really wants. Deep down inside, what the child wants is for someone to say no and mean it, but with a twinkle in his eye. Firm, if need be, but with a twinkle in his eye. See? That's what he needs. Well, that's what the child needs. That's what we all need. We all need correction. We all do. Okay, so now let's get down to a very important point here that I want to make for all of you. Whether you're a lady or a man or an adult child from a dysfunctional home or a parent yourself, whatever you are, number one, your father failed you in some way. You can still be okay, just don't resent him. You can find God yourself, see, who is actually God is your real father. He's your parent spirit. Your earthly father stood in for a while, and he probably didn't do a very good job. If he did a fairly good job, then be grateful for that, okay? If he didn't do a good job, then just don't resent him. Don't hate him, okay? That's the key. Don't resent your father. Then you'll be able to find your heavenly Father when you sense his love and his presence. See, then you'll be fine. Okay? So your resentment of your earthly parents and other people, your resentment of anything or of yourself, resentment stands in the way. It blocks you from salvation, blocks you from changing for the better. Okay? But especially resentment of your father. That's the cardinal mistake that people make. So even if your father was not so good, okay, see that he was not so good, but just don't hate him for it. That's all. Then you can be okay. Okay? Now you need to find God. And you will find you will know first of him. Okay? You sure you've heard about him in church, in school, you've read about him, people have talked about him. Maybe you liked what you heard. You heard about God and about Jesus. Okay? But you weren't sure. Okay? You didn't know for sure. You didn't want to say yes, 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 because you didn't really know for sure. So you just left it as a question. That's fair enough. Okay, that's fair enough. Because that way you're free. See, the worst thing in the world is to affirm something that's not true, or affirm something that's true. Okay, but you affirm it because somebody told you. See, that's what they call brainwashing, sort of. See, you can be brainwashed with the right thing. See, you can be brainwashed with something that's true, but you don't really see it. It's like learning math and you memorize a couple of things, but you don't get it. Okay? You see, it's like that. But you need to get it. You need to see it for yourself. Okay? That takes away doubt when you see it for yourself. So you want to find God, okay? Well, you'll first know of him by correction. Remember I talked about the good father as corrective. Okay? But with a twinkle in his eye, well, that's the way God is. You'll first maybe sense his presence when you have conscience, when his light, God's light, makes you aware of something that you've been doing wrong, like you resented your dad or your mom, or you resent your husband, or you hate your wife, or you hate your neighbor, or you're impatient with your kids, or you're phony with people. See, when all of a sudden you see that, and it causes a pain because you see that it's wrong, and you're sad about what you see. Well, you're actually seeing it in God's light. I talk about that in some of my books, like Becoming a Friend of God. Also in my meditations. A lot of places I talk about that. Okay. So you sense his corrective presence, his conscience. And it's such a beautiful thing to realize that you're wrong, to be sorry, okay, and then just bear the little bit of pain of seeing that you're wrong and don't try to do anything about it. Okay? Let God deal with it. Okay? After a brief time of being aware of your wrong, then joy will return. Okay? See, the good father corrects the child, and then after that, then it's on with the show. See, father is still cheerful. He's not angry. He just wanted you to be sorry, admit you were wrong, that's all. Now, a lot of us don't want to admit we're wrong because of people. They tried to force us to be sorry, force us to admit we were wrong, and so on. Sometimes even when we hadn't done anything, they falsely accused us of having done something and forced us to admit that we did it when we didn't, and forced us to be sorry for something we didn't even do. You see what I mean? So we develop a block against it. But so forget all about that. Never mind people. Don't let people stand between you and God. Okay? Just forget about all that. Now just between you and God. If in your heart, see, you sense that you are wrong about something, then just you and God. Admit to Him. Okay? It's okay to be ashamed before God. It's okay to be sad before God. It's okay to have remorse before God. It's just you and God. Nobody else's business. Okay? They're not involved. Okay? Well, like I always say, meditation will help you in a lot of ways. A lot of ways. So you can have the kind of perspective that I have. See? About your own issues and others, people's issues. It'll impart understanding. Helps you to find God, and then from God all the good things will flow, all the blessings flow. What is this beautiful grace? It's praise God from whom all blessings flow. Okay? My name is Pastor Roland.